What's up, everybody? It's producer Walker Vreeland. Just here to remind you that I Don't Need an Acting Class is now sponsored by WeAudition.com. WeAudition.com is a full-service platform for actors. So basically everything you need to audition virtually can be found on this website, including highly rated professional readers. And that will set your audition apart, let me tell you. So if you sign up today and use the code Acting Class, all one word, get 25% off. The subscription is normally $10 a month, which is already very cheap and very reasonable. But again, if you sign up today and use the code Acting Class, get 25% off. Enjoy the show. Welcome to I Don't Need an Acting Class with Milton Justice.
Here's what I know about acting. I know that we probably know all of it and we forget it. And then all of a sudden we use it and we think to ourselves, oh, I knew that. But somehow or another, it's like, I don't know, something happens and it suddenly makes more sense. And I think that is what happens with acting. I think all of a sudden you have this epiphany. And something suddenly makes sense and you go, oh my God, that's just amazing. So I had an epiphany, which I guess was something that I've always known, but really became clear to me as I was working with Raphael on his audition for the Swedish Academy. And what became really clear to me was that your action changes the more depth you have. And it's very interesting because we did a lot of analysis, as you'll do. The audition is in Swedish, but he's going to do it in English first so you know what he's talking about. But we did a lot of analysis about what it was about, what he was saying. And you'll see the pieces about someone his life is surrounded by white people. And so the initial impressions were absolutely clear. We need to build this life that he has being judged by white people. And then the more we worked on it, the more, and it's from a Swedish play. And so then he did more research, and apparently in Sweden, anyone can immigrate to Sweden, but you have exactly 1 year to learn Swedish, and if you don't, they throw you out. So it had that whole kind of feel to it, and suddenly then we added the element that had to do with, there was a lot at stake. And then we finally, as we got around to it yesterday, I realized the action had changed because for a while we were using the action, you don't know what I go through. But the more depth and the more digging down we had, the more rasbor, if you will, the more that I realized that was not the action. And so the action really became more, I'm afraid I'm losing myself. But I mean, that was really something that I realized. It shocks me to think that any director or certainly any teacher would have anybody come up with actions before they went to a rehearsal. And then it shocks me that nobody is encouraged to understand it will change. I mean, the action is like this thing you wrap around the whole thing. And it makes sense that the more depth you have, the more you understand that the more that it would change. You can't decide it in advance what a play is about. It's a really interesting part of it. A play really comes out of rehearsal. Because every rehearsal you dig further and further in depth. And so it's really important. It's always important, I think, also, and the reason I like talking out, and you have to bust yourself, because what ends up happening is you find an action you like, let's say, if you are smart enough to take the impulse of the monologue and own it emotionally before you start, you have to own the freshness of it every time. So you're never just reporting. You're never just repeating. Let's say, as an example, if you're doing a Shaw monologue, Teo happens to be working on one at the moment, and if I say, what's going on? What's your impulse for this scene, for this monologue? And you say, my impulse is wake up, people. So the next time you do it, you can't just say, wake up, people. Do you understand from the tone that it's dead? I am now repeating something I have decided. And this is a really crucial part of the way you say it is the way you'll do it. And that's the reason that you have to, if you take an action, I mean, you can use the same action every single time as long as it affects you. So if your action, or let's call it an impulse, if your impulse is wake up, people, then you have to play it that way every time. As soon as you just start repeating it with no life to it, then you've got to know that. That's the importance of really owning totally what the impulse for the monologue is, what the impulse for the scene is, what the impulse for the play is. And you have to know that the more depth you have, it's going to change. You need to give yourself permission for it to change. And I think that's true with all aspects of what we do. It will change. It will change as it gets more depth. The vocabulary will be different. And also, you just understand more. The fact that Stanislavski, late in his life, stopped blocking plays was based on something he understood very well, which was blocking, air quotes, came out of the impulse for the scene. And so, therefore, the more you know about the scene, the more you have to allow yourself to move differently. So, I mean, it's an important thing if we are to believe what's going on stage. It's like Krasner tell the story of a recording session with Billie Holiday, and the conductor said the second time they did a song, you did it differently. And she said, I felt it differently. And obviously, we've got to live within the realm of, other people and cameras and crews and all that kind of thing. But you have to give yourself an understanding that it will change. But I really liked figuring it out because Raphael worked on this monologue for quite a while. Not as long as Kareem and I've been working on his monologue, but we worked on it for quite a while, and we worked on it long enough that it suddenly became clear that we knew more about this monologue than we did last week. It had begun to kind of get into us more. And so, therefore, it became about something else. Anyway, I made that discovery, which I probably made 4 years ago, or who knows, possibly 20 years ago. But then all of a sudden I understood it in a different way. So anyway, I find that, kind of the fun part of what we're doing. It's like we keep finding things.
I Don't Need an Acting Class is hosted and created by Milton Justice. Senior producer is me, Walker Vreeland, and director of online media is Evan Sollers. Music by Jeffrey Keyser Trio, May This Be Love, from their album On My Way to You. If you have a moment, please rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find us. And if you would like to send an email, if you have a question for Milton, you can do so at questionsformilton@gmail.com. Another way to get in touch is on Instagram at I Don't Need an Acting Class. It's brought to you by weaudition.com, a full-service online platform for actors. And if you sign up and use the code Acting Class, get 25% off. Again, get 25% off when you use the code Acting Class. Again, the website is weaudition.com. Have a fabulous week, everybody, and we will see you back here next time.